Back with Alan and our Giants reporter, Madelyn Burke. It's not all NBA and NHL tonight. Got some Giants football, huh?
Absolutely. Now that it's July, it is officially the month that NFL training camps open, and 3 weeks from now, we'll be seeing some football again.
What do coaches do at this point?
You know, at this time of the year, I think everyone just kind of takes a step back. And, you know, you got to take a step away to be able to be fresh and to be available and kind of mentally prepared for the season at hand. And again, you know, OTAs wrapped up, mini camp wrapped up. The coaching staff was very impressed with what they saw on the field from this team. And I think at this point in the year, you know, Coach Shermer mentioned, he says it's not time off, it's time away, you know, and it's important for the players to take responsibility for themselves and to do, you know, what they need to do to be prepared both physically and mentally for the season. And the coaches then, you know, kind of start to evaluate what they saw in minicamp, what they saw in OTAs, and how they plan to approach training camp, which again comes so much quicker than any of us expect it to.
There was so much doom and gloom in the spring.
Yes.
Coming off the season, the Odell trade, OV gets traded, Landon Collins gets traded, and it felt like, where are they going? And then taking Daniel Jones with the first round pick also, got people wondering, what are they doing? But as the dust has settled, it does feel like that it's not as bad as it looks. And if there's anything to be curious about, I think the first thing I'm wondering is there a lot more pressure on Betcher as the defensive coordinator because it's such a young defense without a pass rush? Whereas, I don't know, we're not worried about the offense, right? Is it more, when you go into training camp, you got more eyes on that defense to see just how good it can be? Could it be good enough?
I mean, I think that is a good point. I mean, Betcher's defense kind of came in with this very physical, kind of high resume thing. And last year, the defense at the end of the season kind of struggled to close out, to finish out games. The offense you saw getting over that hurdle. You know, the Giants had hit that 30-point ceiling several times. Then they were able to break through it and put points on the board last season. I think the offense has found its rhythm. The defense was a little challenging, though. They didn't quite have the personnel in place to do what James Betcher had envisioned. They've made a lot of changes. They've got a very young front seven. They've got a very young front on the defense. And
is there a pass rush?
The pass rush is something that's going to be a point of focus. Yeah. And again, we won't be able to really see that, though, until we get to training camp, until we can put some pads on and really kind of get that physicality. Because even in OTAs and minicamp, it's shorts and T-shirts. So it's a lot more mental reps and footwork and kind of slowing things down. But once you kind of see the physicality there, and I think it's going to help, too, because, you know, Gettleman addressed that need a lot in the offseason, bringing in some veterans that are very familiar with the James Betcher defense. Marcus Golden, who's going to be, you know, a prominent edge rusher and outside linebacker. He played for Betcher in Arizona, and he's coming off an ACL injury, but has looked pretty strong in the offseason so far. And they're taking their time. They're not rushing it because they want to make sure everyone's healthy for training camp. But again, OTA is the fact that not only everyone pretty much was there was really promising attendance, and that's really strong for building this team and building this core. You know, and in the draft, too, they got, you know, Dexter Lawrence, who I think is going to be a really promising part of that front line. And, you know, despite the Clemson-Alabama thing, that he and Dalvin Tomlinson already have this really great relationship formed, and they've got a really strong friendship, and they've really been, you know, Dalvin has been strong in bringing Lawrence along as well. And he was part of like a historic Clemson D-line, and he kind of brings that and that swagger and stuff like that too. So I'm imagining that they're going to be, O'Shane Zimenez, another piece they added. Lorenzo Carter, somebody who, you know, you see like physically standing in front of you. He looks bigger, he looks stronger already than he did his rookie year. I think he's going to be improving. I think a lot of these pieces are coming together. And again, year two in this system, these guys are not thinking as much about formation and movements as much as they are reacting, and a lot quicker because it's a lot more familiar.
And you covered OTAs. You were there for minicamp. Anyone that maybe was able to stand out that may continue to do so once training camp starts?
You know, I think the rookie wide receiver Darius Slayton really stood out to me because at rookie minicamp, you know, you're watching him, and he comes in, he's a very fast guy out of Auburn, and he's got that kind of speedster reputation. And he had a little bit of the yips. He had a hard time catching the ball, had a hard time kind of finding his way. But then by the end of minicamp and by the end of OTAs, Pat Shermer couldn't help but praise him so much because of, number one, how far he had come from rookie minicamp, but number two, just how confident he looked and how quickly he was picking things up. I think he's going to be a really key part of this passing game and this offense.
And speaking of passing, Daniel Jones is obviously a name that everybody will be talking about and watching when training camp begins. Still Eli's ball. But it's still a learning process for him, whether he gets his chance this season or not. There's probably no off time for him either, right? I'm sure what is he doing literally right now?
You know, I actually asked him this. I said, how do you plan to spend your time away? And he just wants to dive deep in understanding, number one, this playbook, this offense, and just kind of be prepared. Coach Shermer said as they were leaving, you know, Eli's going to prepare to have a great season, and Daniel Jones is going to prepare to be ready to play. And what that means is not necessarily like, oh, this is going to be a quarterback, but you want your young guy, your young quarterback, to be ready to play if his number is called, if a situation asks for it. And they're bringing him along in a way that they want to make sure to put him in a position to succeed. And by being under Eli Manning, a guy who's won 2 Super Bowls, who's got the reputation he does with this Giants organization.
It's just the classroom alone.
The classroom alone, exactly. And that Duke connection, you know, Eli has his passing thing. He brings the receivers out to Duke every summer and every offseason to kind of get that going, and that Cutcliffe connection. And there's just striking similarities between the two of them, even like physically and demeanor-wise. And you know, Daniel Jones, Mike Shula has spoken highly of him. Pat Shurmur has been a quarterback whisperer. And you know, Mike Shula was on the staff of Cam Newton's rookie season and said, you know, sometimes you see these guys and you just want to make sure to put them in a position where they can learn the game and learn to understand that the defense is going to be quicker. And sometimes you're going to see a coverage that looks like in college you wouldn't throw it there, but you got to find that spot and find that hole and move quicker in the mindset of it.
Madelyn, thank you very much. I'm all choked up.
Wow, you're excited.
You know, we're all just emotional that football is almost here, you guys.
I'm so emotional about training camp
We've got
just being around the corner.
3 weeks. Are you ready?
For more great videos from the MSG 150, check out right there. And remember, our show is on Monday through Thursday, 8 to 10:30 p.m. on MSG Network and MSG Go.